Hello everyone, welcome to the TSS channel. In this class we are going to discuss about the topic of templates, how we are going to use templates in the Flask. So first of all, uh, before going to the concept of templates, let me discuss about why we need templates, right? So in the last classes what we had been doing is we are directly returning a HTML code inside the Python code, right? Let me explain that one. So this is app.root decorator. So whenever a user types this format of URL, then this function will execute. And what we are returning? We are returning a simple string. Okay. So this is a HTML code actually. So we are returning it as a string, right? Plain string. So in this method of returning, it is not that much uh, attractive to the user. So the typically the web page contains so much of CSS stylings, so much of JavaScript interactions, so much of HTML code will be there in the real time scenarios, right? So for simple HTML responses, this is okay. Okay, this type of string responses is okay, but in order to send a big HTML code that contains some 500 lines of HTML code that was mixed with the CSS stylings and JavaScript, all those things, then it is not practically possible to type all those 500 lines here in the string format, right? It will make the code cumbersome and very difficult to maintain, because we are mixing up the Python code. This is def, index, return, these are all the Python code, but inside the written inside this codes it is a HTML. So the code is easily mixed up and we got confused, right? So that's why it's a drawback. Okay, so returning simple string is okay, but for a simple one line sentence, two line sentences, it is okay. But what to talk of some 500 600 lines of HTML code, if you want to return to the end user, then it is very tough, right? So that is a drawback. So the drawbacks is I mentioned some 4 points here. So mixing of Python code and HTML code, right? So it's not a good practice actually in the real time scenarios. So the Python code, if you open a file and name it as a Python, then entire the file, a Python code must be there. It cannot be mixed up with the other code, right? And HTML code is also like that only, right? If the code gets mixed up, then it is for simple applications it is okay, but if it is a complex application that spans of thousands of lines of code, then some 20 lines of HTML, some chunk of uh, 20 30 lines of HTML uh, will be present at some parts of that code, Python code somewhere HTML code will come. So like that, then interpreting that code is very difficult. It's cumbersome. Okay, so if you want to write a big HTML code, then it's very cumbersome to write inside the Python code, right? And then, so as I said, if you want to iterate over the data, because data is not simply coming, so most of the times it is coming from the database. So some thousands of records we are getting from the database and displaying those 100 or 1000 records to the end user. Then there is a need to insert those 1000 records into the HTML template. Then if you want to manually code all those records, it is very much impossible, right? So with these raw strings we can do it, but it is very cumbersome. With the loop statements we can do it, but it is very cumbersome, friends. It's not developer friendly. So it is only meant for simple rendering simple HTML response to the user, one line or typically two lines, that's it. No, without any styling, right? So that is mentioned here. It is meant for only simple HTML responses, but not for complex HTML responses, which require heavy CSS styling and JavaScript for better UI and UX. UI means user interface, UX means user experience. So typically in these days, a web page minimum contains a 200-300 lines of code, which heavy CSS stylings, bootstrap stylings, and so much JavaScript interactions. All those are mixed up put together, right? So that much of code it is not possible to insert in the form of this simple strings, right? So that's why we need some system to inject the data dynamically into the template, right? Okay, so that is where templates concept comes into the picture, friends. Okay, this is the drawback of direct HTML strings to return. So direct HTML strings is meant for rendering simple responses that spans one line or two lines, simple. But if you want to render some 200-300 lines of code, then it is not recommended to code as a direct HTML string, but you are recommended to use templates, Flask templates, right? So that is the background story of these drawbacks and why we are going for templates, right? So now let me discuss about the Flask templates. Now this Flask web framework uses Jinja 2 templating engine, friends. So what is Jinja 2 templating engine means? It's a system of uh, taking the HTML code aside and dynamically injecting the data which is coming from the Python code into that HTML uh, code, right? Okay, so with example I will clear it to you. Let me finish the theory part first. So this templating engine, what is the purpose of the templating engine? I think you can understand now. So that is a drawback of the HTML strings. We can't write more than uh, some 2 lines or 3 lines. It is very cumbersome. That is the drawback of HTML strings, direct HTML strings. So the templates avoids those drawbacks. So how it avoids means with the templating engine. So every framework uses its own templating engine, friends. In Flask, Flask uses Jinja 2 templating engine to render lengthy HTML code to the end user, right? So this line is important. For rendering the lengthy big HTML codes to the end user, then we will typically go for templating engine, right? So how it will accomplish that task, right? So here it is there. Flask uses render underscore template method. One template is there, so that render template method is used. Okay, so this render template will take the HTML file as a first argument, right, and then the dynamic data as a second argument. Okay, so that will follows, I will tell in the coding section, friends. So Jinja 2 template engine will easily insert dynamic data into HTML code with its template language syntax. So you please concentrate here. This Jinja 2 template engine is having its own syntax. Okay, its own syntax. It is 90% equal to the Python code, Python syntax only. So it's not very tough, it's very easy. If you know Python, Jinja template language syntax is also 90% same, right? So with that syntax, it will insert the dynamic data into those lengthy HTML codes beautifully, right? And then uh, you need to understand how this template engine will find the HTML file and then insert the dynamic data which is coming from the function, right? So this render template method will automatically search for the HTML files inside the templates folder, friends. Okay, so if this is our application folder, right? Sorry, in this application folder, inside this we have app.py, right? In this main application folder itself, we have to create templates folder, right? And then inside the templates folder, we need to create the HTML files. So this is the folder structure. So this is the application folder inside which we had configured the Flask app.py, and then at the same level itself we are creating templates folder. With this templates folder, within this templates folder, we need to create all the HTML templates, right? Template means it's simply a HTML file. Okay, so then what this render template method will do is it will search for the files and then it will inject the dynamic data into the HTML file, friends, right? Okay, and then what is the syntax that Jinja 2 template follows, right? So here the Jinja 2 template engine uses the delimiters for the purpose of escaping from HTML syntax. Okay, so HTML syntax is different. Okay, it uses the tags, right? So browsers only understand the HTML. Okay, and in order to inject this dynamic data, Jinja 2 template engine uses some delimiters. So the delimiters is as shown in this red color. So this is curly braces, double curly braces, open, double curly braces, close. It is used for a substitute a simple variable data which is coming from the function. At that times we will use this syntax, friends. Okay, and then curly brace percentage and curly brace percentage curly brace, right? So this syntax is used for statements. If you want to use conditional statements, if else or some looping statements, then we will go for the pattern like this, right? And this is a simple comments, right? If you want to comment what the code is doing, Jinja 2 code is doing, then we will write your comments inside these three dots, right? Okay, so typically we are going to use these patterns, the pattern of syntaxes, Jinja 2 syntaxes, for injecting data into the HTML template, friends, right? So this is the backdrop of the templates, right? And then now we are going to code. Let us say we have let me explain this one, first one, right? So first of all, let me show how we are returning a simple string function, then we will go for how to use templates, right? uh, let me explain. So here I had written this code. So if you type the main localhost colon 5000 URL into the web page, then this function will execute and returns this raw string, right? Let me open my web browser. Let me type 127/00 or localhost, both are same, and I am giving 5000 because this 5000 is the port on which my Flask web server is running. Okay, so after typing this pattern of URL, the string will be returned by the this function. Okay, this is the string. Okay, so this is all wrapped out, and then the only content will be displayed because the browser will understood it as a markup language. That's why it won't display these tags onto the web page, right? So if you see the view page source, then all these strings will be there. Okay, but for presentation only the content will be displayed, right? So that is in the case of returning a simple one line, two line strings, friends. So what if you want to code some 200 lines of HTML code here, right? So it is not possible. Okay, so now we need to use templates, concept of templates, friends. Okay, now let me come here. Okay, right. So let me first explain uh, for simple variable substitution, right? So I am discussing step by step. I will discuss the syntax of double curly braces for simple variable data, and then I will give example of if and if else and for loop syntaxes to inject the dynamic data into the HTML template, friends. First I will discuss how we will inject a simple variable data into the HTML template, right? So in addition to that, we need to use this render template function. We need to import this render template function which is available in the Flask module. So as usual, we will instantiate that Flask into the variable, and then we will use the decorator. So here I am giving the pattern like slash fish. If a user opens his web browser and if he types after 5000 port, if he types slash wish, then this wish function will be executed, friends. So what this function is doing is, it's a simple string. It's a good morning, a gm is a variable name, and then return. Here is a important point to note. Return, what we are returning? We are returning not a raw string, we are returning a template. What template? hello.html template. With what data? The data is equal to, the second argument talks about the data to inject into this HTML file, friends. Okay, so where this hello.html file, this hello.html file will be definitely inside the templates folder here. Okay, okay, friends. So while showing the practical code, I will show where I had placed this hello.html. Okay, so this is the concept. This line is very important. We are returning a template along with the data. Okay, so its template is nothing but you can visualize it as a plate, friends. We are while we are eating the food, so we can't use eat food directly, no. First what we do, we take a plate and then we will put the required amount of food onto the plate, and then we will hold the plate and then we will eat the food, right? So like that, similarly this HTML template, this hello.html is a file, it's a template, so on which this data will be feeded, right? And then finally the final HTML file will be rendered to the end user. Okay, right. So this hello.html file will look like this, somehow look like this, right? Doc HTML, this is the declaration code, this is the HTML tags, body tags, and then h1 tags. So inside h1 tags we need to substitute the data given by this function, right? So what data is a simple variable data. GM is the variable. So what GM consists of? It consists of a simple good morning. So the data we are passing it into the render template function, right? Then so inside this HTML file hello.html file, we need to substitute the data. Okay, so the substitution part, the injecting, we are injecting the data which was given by this wish function to the hello.html by using this syntax called double curly braces, and we need to place the uh, uh, the argument which we had given. It is called the argument, right friends? So second argument data. So data we are giving keyword argument it is, right? So that key you need to mention here in order to substitute the content which is available inside the GM, that is good morning, right? So let me switch to the practical session, friends. And now, so this is the function. So I'm not going to waste time by typing all those things. Rather than I want to concentrate on explaining the more about the code. Okay friends, so this is the wish function. So this is the variable data, and this variable data is injecting into the hello.html file. This hello.html file where I had placed is here. Okay, this is the application folder. Inside the application folder, I had created one templates folder. Inside this template folder, I had created this hello.html file. Okay, in this hello.html file, so this is the HTML syntax. Here I need to substitute the data which is coming from the variable. Okay, so Python function. Okay, so the data which we are supposed to give to the template, we need to pass it as a second argument, friends. Okay, right? Then this render template method will automatically searches for hello.html inside the templates folder. This is a default format, friends. Okay, so now if anybody opens the web browser and gives the pattern like this /wish, then this function will execute. This data will be submitted to the hello.html. The hello.html, here the data will be substituted. This is the flow, friends. Let me check that one. Now let us type /wish. Yeah, so I had given the wish, it has written hello good morning. This good morning is coming from the Python function. This is purely a HTML file, but this good morning is injected from the HTML, from the Python code, friends, right? So this is the hello.html. Hello.html is only this part. Okay, but here the data, it is substituting. Where this data is coming from? This data is coming from this GM variable which is supplied. This is the data which is supplied to the hello.html, friends. Okay, this is the flow. Okay, so the bottom line is we are separating our concern. So this is a purely Python code. Hello.html, we are defining so many lines here. Okay, so this is a simple HTML, but in fact in reality we have some 200-300 lines of code is there. So we have no problem writing all these HTML codes, 200-300 lines of codes here. Okay, you can write, but wherever needed, wherever the dynamic data is needed, in that place we will use this syntax to substitute the data. That's it. Rest of the things all the Python code, I mean HTML code only. In the HTML file, the majority portion is HTML code only. In the Python file, all is Python code only, right? So in this way we are separating the concerns. We will keep HTML file separately. We will keep Python code separately in Python files. We will keep HTML code separately in HTML files, and then we are supplying the output of Python data to the HTML files by using render template method, friends. Okay, so that is the bottom line. So now back to the presentation. So now in this class we just saw simple injecting simple variable data into the HTML template. Okay, so in my last classes, in this screen I had talked about the syntaxes of template engine. So this syntax we had saw, and now coming to this type of syntax, that is curly braces, percentage, percentage curly brace. Inside this we have to use we will use some conditional statements and looping statements, some complex statements. Will use this syntax. Let me give an example for this syntax, friends. It is also easy. So if you want to render a template based on some conditions, then we will go for this syntax, friends, right? This type of syntax. Let me explain this code first, then we will go for practical sessions. Yeah, so not much different. It's a similar, but some idea I had taken. Simple slash age. Okay, slash age URL pattern. This is the function is going to execute. I had simply taken age is equal to 24. Simple. Okay, then I am returning the data into the template age.html, which was created inside the template folders, right? And I am supplying that age data into this HTML as a key yours underscore age, right? Okay, then what will happen? It will go and search for age.html inside the HTML folder. This is the age.html which was defined inside the HTML folder. And then how we are injecting, if the age is greater than 18, then only this HTML code will execute, friends. Okay, so if the statement is false, then it won't execute this h1 tag, okay, inside it. Okay, so this is conditional evaluation. Okay, when will this you are eligible to vote will print on the screen means only your age supplied by this Python function as an output determines it. Okay, so this uh, syntax, this Jinja syntax is determining, this Jinja syntax is using if statement, friends. Okay, so that if statement is going to determine the output. Okay, friends, right? So the age is 24, so this condition becomes true, then only this h1 tag will be printed to the screen. Otherwise, if the age is some say less than 18, then only you are not eligible to vote will print to the screen, friends. And then this is a conditional branching. Okay, so the flow will branch based upon the condition. If it is true, then it will take this code, right, to print onto the screen. Otherwise it will print this one. And so this conditional statement will be the end of this conditional statement will be specified by this format, friends. end if, no gap in between, end if. This is the Jinja syntax. Okay, let us see it practically. Now I am uncommenting this one, so I am taking age slash age. So the function is this one, so I am simply taking as age is equal to 10. So I am supplying this age data into the age.html, which is defined in the templates folder here, the age.html. So the supplied age is checked inside the HTML template like this, with this Jinja syntax. Okay, this is the Jinja syntax. The supplied code is your underscore age, that is the key. Okay, this key contains the data which is supplied by the Python code. Okay friends, so there what we had given, 10, only 10. Okay, this 10 is applied to this your age key. Then coming to the age, so 10 is greater than or equal to 18, so that is false. So because it is false, it doesn't print this one, it directly comes to the else block and then it will print this one, you are not eligible to vote. So the conditional flow ends here. Okay, so this is the mechanics friends. So let me execute this one. Simply we have to type age here. Yeah, now you will see you are not eligible to vote. This particular tag is printed. Why it is printed? So because this is controlling the rendering, right? This Jinja syntax is controlling. That means it is injecting the data based on these conditions also, okay, into the HTML template. Let me modify it some 30 years. Okay, 30 years. Let me run it. So now let us check. Now you are eligible to vote. So now the Jinja syntax is printing this HTML tag based on the conditions, right? So you are now you are eligible. Why? The your age supplied by the Python code is become true here, then only this block is executing. Okay friends, so this is an example of conditional statements in the Jinja templating engine. And then we will see one more example with the loop statements, right? So looping means it's a beautiful concept. It is very much useful uh, in the case of rendering uh, data records from the database. Okay, if you are fetching some thousand records from the database, then we need to iterate over those thousand records to print inside the HTML. At that times, this syntax is very much useful, friends. Okay, so that is a practical real time use case. Okay, so this is also not much different. So I am taking as a slash score and it will execute this one. This time I am taking a collection data type that is called dictionary. So if you don't know what dictionary or something what all these things, in my Python basics course I had elaborately discussed about the Python data types. You please visit those courses. Okay, so after learning the Python basics and Python advanced only, you need to come to the Flask tutorials, friends. So this is a collections data type in which the data is stored in the form of key value pairs. So the score is equal to Sachin. Sachin is the key here. Value is 90. Virat is the key here. 70 is the value. Sehwag is the key here. 80 is the value. That means Sachin 90, Virat 70, Sehwag 80. So the scores are arranged in the collection form. Okay, and then we are sending this dictionary data into the score.html template using render template method. Okay friends, then what will happen? So it will search for score.html and inject this data into score.html. So we need to define score.html inside the templates folder. Okay, so now I am defining the score.html inside the template folder like this. So HTML body table. Now we are taking it as a table. So it's our wish. If you want the data to be presented to the end user in the HTML table format, we can take the table format. Otherwise, if you want to present this data to the end user in the list format, HTML lists, ordered lists or unordered lists like that, then we'll go for defining UL or OL tags. Okay, it's all our developer wish, right? So if you don't know this what is this table tag tr th td, all these uh, tags, you need to basically learn the HTML basics, friends. Okay, I do have these HTML tutorials, you please refer to that if you don't understand these table tags. Okay, so this inside this table tags, what you are doing, it's a very you need to concentrate more on this. Here some bunch of this block of data will be repeatedly printed out until and unless the data finishes. Up to the data finishes, first time it will go and print all these tags and substitutes the key values here. Okay, and then second, for the second a value, it will again come and it will again print the key and value here. Key means Sachin, value means 90. First time Sachin will be printed here, value 90 will be printed here, and then the second time it will come because there are three values will be there. Then it will, how many times it will loop? Three times this code block will be printed. So for first value Sachin 90, second value Virat 70, third value Sehwag 80. How this loop mechanism is going to happen inside this HTML template? So that is by using Jinja to syntax. So inside this syntax called curly braces, percentage curly brace, between these two we are using for loop. So it's 90%, it's a Python syntax only. So if you know Python syntax, Python statements, then it is very easy. It's a simple this Python code inside these delimiters. That's it. It's a Jinja 2 template language. That's it. For key value in data dot items, because it is a data is a dictionary. Okay, inside dictionary there is an inbuilt method called items. These items is having key and value, it will store key and value, right? So the Sachin will store in the key variable and 90 in the stored in 90 is stored in the value variable. You can take any variable you want. You can take x and y here. Okay, it doesn't matter. Okay, the mechanics will still work. So first Sachin and 90 will be taken. So Sachin will store inside the key variable, 90 will be stored in the value variable. So these key and value variables need to be printed out. So for printing simple variable data, we are going to use this double curly braces. Okay, and then after printing the Sachin and 90, then it will come to the second item. The second item is Virat. So Virat is stored in the key, 70 is stored in the value, then Virat is printed, 70 is printed in the tabular format, and then it will come again and takes the third element, third item. So third item Sehwag is stored in the key, it will be stored in the value. These are the simple variables. So for printing the variables we are going to use the curly braces and it will be printed. And after printing all these three items, the for loop control will end here. Then these tags will be printed. Okay, this is the phenomena, friends, for injecting data based on loop statements. Okay, so let us move to the practical session. Now I am uncommenting this. So I am taking a score and defined a function. So the score is a dictionary, so which is contained Sachin, Virat and Sehwag, and I am supplying this dictionary to the score.html, which is defined inside the templates folder, friends, like this. Here the doc type, all these things I had discussed in the coding section. Okay, friends. So now if we go and give the URL like this, then this data will be submitted to the score.html, and score.html will go to the Jinja to template engine. The Jinja to template engine will render all these things and the final template will be given as a response after filling up all these values, friends. Okay, who will fill all these values means Jinja template engine will fill. Okay, let us h score. Okay, so after giving the score, the first value, the first key is Sachin, the value is 90 is printed. Then again the second value is printed, second key is printed and the corresponding value is printed, and then the loop comes to the third item. The third item key is printed and its corresponding value is printed in this tabular format. Okay, so this is a tabular format, right, friends? So this is about Flask templates, a beautiful concept for writing a lengthy HTML code and for separating the concerns. Okay, for separating Python code from HTML and for separating HTML from Python code. Okay, we are keeping the different codes in different files, and wherever it is necessary we are replacing, we are substituting, or we are injecting, any word you can take, you are injecting the required data in required places by using the Jinja to template syntax, friends. Okay, that is the bottom line you take away. Okay, friends, in the next class we will come up with some other topic. Till then, bye bye. Yours Veera signing off. Thank you for listening.